Well, I think we could turn a problem into at least part of the solution by having a joint funding of the bailout fund for Ukraine. That would surely go beyond symbolism. All sides putting hard cash on the table. The Russians, of course, can certainly afford it. They've got the world's fourth biggest foreign exchange reserves. So it'd be a combination of EU, led by Germany, Russian and IMF money. And it really is important to say just how much more the EU have got in this financially than the US. Of course, this whole situation has become a political plaything for America because of Obama's reset. You know, there are people on Capitol Hill, if a typhoon hit Alabama, it would be the fault of Obama's reset with Russia. And clearly Kerry has to react to that with his nonsensical words. But the EU really has got a huge amount of financial and economic stake in Russia. And it strikes me that the funding proportions should be commensurate with that. One only hopes that this can happen pretty quickly, so we don't get into a situation where a Ukrainian default becomes a sword of Damocles over the broader global financial system, because it certainly does have the capacity, the potential to be a spark, a tinderbox that could cause systemic fallout across global markets, and that would be particularly bad for the region because we are so far on economically from where we were. The 1998 crisis, the so-called Russia crisis, is actually a Thailand crisis for anybody that knows anything about financial markets. But of course, it became the Russia crisis. We are so far on from that. The main economy in the region has gone from being a $200 billion economy back in those days to a $2 trillion economy. It's gone from being the IMF's biggest debtor to being one of the world's only sovereign creditors. There's a lot more financial stability in this region, not least from Russia. And one hopes that we can put together a bailout package that is seen to be transparent, non-corrupt, and can do the job of allowing the Ukrainian economy some room for manoeuvre, so it can become, with its massive agricultural, human capital assets, and its coal, of course, and hopefully steel prices will recover a little bit to help it, a serious commercially viable place, which it should obviously be.
And if it does become a commercially viable place, Dmitry Babich, we could have the prospect in a few months' time of more protests in the street, more protests in Kiev. This is just an interim government. I mean, it doesn't look like it's going to stabilize anytime soon. What do you think?
Well, I just wanted to say that, remember, in November, Yanukovych was asking for money to actually help him stay afloat, and then he would sign that association agreement. So wouldn't it be wiser to give that money, which the EU is now promising Yanukovych, then? It would probably solve the problem, and we wouldn't be in such a difficult situation right now. But indeed, I foresee that there will be a lot of problems because clearly Ukraine was put before a choice it didn't want to make. And I hope that this crisis will teach us something. It will teach us that we don't have and we shouldn't put Ukraine before this so-called civilizational choice. Russia and the West should work together to make Ukraine again, I repeat, again, a democratic nation, because you can't have democracy when nearly 100 people, both policemen and protesters, are killed in a matter of a few days in Kiev.
Okay, well, look, we're running out of time, Charles. I just want to get your view on, I mean, there is a fragile communication line, one could say, between the Russian and Ukrainian governments. There, Kiev and Simferopol are setting up a commission to discuss some kind of common strategy. I'm wondering, do you think, in your view, is negotiation beginning to reassert itself over confrontation?
Maybe. You can see the essence, listening to what everyone has said. There's the essence of a deal between West, if you can call it that, US, EU, and Russia, and Ukraine. You know, part of it involves money. Part of it involves language rights for everybody. Part of it involves some sort of security guarantee. So this issue of where, you know, which camp you're in is taken off the table sort of for a while, or if not indefinitely. You know, you can see how a big deal could be put together. But that would mean all of us giving things up. And it would actually mean Russia, I think, committing to a level of transparency and integrity in Ukraine, which so far, frankly, it hasn't done. So the risk, I think, is that there may be people out there, including in Russia, extremists of different shapes and sizes in Ukraine, and for all I know in the West, who don't want that deal.
Great. Well, that's a nice place to leave it. Sadly, we've run out of time. That's Charles Crawford, an international negotiations consultant who used to serve with the UK Foreign Office. Joining me in the studio also here was Vera Graziadei, who is a Ukrainian-Russian actor based in London. She's from Donetsk. Also here, Liam Halligan, columnist for the Telegraph and a former asset manager based in Moscow. From Washington, D.C., we had Francis Boyle, professor at the University of Illinois College of Law and author of the book Tackling America's Toughest Questions. And, of course, in Moscow, the political analyst for Voice of Russia, Dmitry Babich. Thank you very much for joining me, Brendan Cole, on the Voice of Russia in London.